What's cracking, everyone? Welcome on in to another episode of Golf on Tap. As always, Jack Bushman here with Ross Baran, diving into the 88th edition of the Masters, which I personally thought was an excellent tournament. Every day had intriguing storylines and brought something different. Until the end, Scottie Scheffler, the undisputed world number one, reigns supreme once again. It was always Scottie Scheffler, his second green jacket over the last 3 years. Had some competition there early on Sunday, but everyone faded except for the man himself. The boogeyman, once again, is at the top, Ross. But I did think it was an excellent Masters week. I really did enjoy it. It always comes and goes too fast. So we'll be breaking down all that good stuff here on today's show. If you're joining us right now, make sure to go and jump into the YouTube feed so you can interact with us and hit that like button, which greatly goes a long way. And also make sure to go and follow the show on either Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. That way, if you're not joining us live, you can still be able to catch up on all of the latest episodes. And also make sure to use the promo code on tap at our sponsor, Bet Rivers, to get up to a $250 match. Ross, Scottie Scheffler, as we just talked about, reigns supreme once again. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on the Masters altogether, and how did you enjoy your weekend, my friend?
Well, it's Masters weekend, which is, for me, one of the best weekends of the year. It's the green, it's the azaleas, it's just everything is so picturesque the way they set it up. You know that they basically have the landscapers out there nightly. Oh, that the pine straw's out of order on 11. Someone go out there and brush it back to where it needs to be. But I was just laughing. It was all of the same memes of it's a picture of Scottie Scheffler, and it's the classic Marvel meme that I am inevitable.
I was saying it all week. I've been saying it for months now. The way he plays, it's inevitable. Not only does Scottie Scheffler now have 3 wins and a T2 in his last 4 starts, Ross, he hasn't shot an over par round all year long, going on 82 consecutive weeks as the world number one. Can't say you're surprised by what Scottie Scheffler went out there and did. And it felt like, there were moments where he could have slipped up. On Saturday, he had those back-to-back bogeys. Might have even been a double where he missed from like within 3 feet. But then he goes and jars that eagle on the 15th, gets himself right back at the top of the leaderboard. And his iron play really wasn't as special as we've seen over the last chunk of weeks, but it just was another reminder of how good Scottie Scheffler is, because the way I describe him to people who maybe aren't as familiar with his game and what he does, he just doesn't hit 2 bad shots in a row. And whenever there's one part of his game that isn't rolling, he can get it going good enough in the other areas to make up for that. And that's what we saw with the around the green play. One of the best weeks of Scottie Scheffler's career around the greens. A couple of chip-ins, showing off his marvelous touch time after time. And like I said, he just doesn't compound issues. He doesn't compound mistakes. And that's really what led to him winning his second green jacket in 3 years here, Ross, because if you go and look at Sunday afternoon, I mean, at one point, I think at 8 or 9, there was a 4-way tie for the lead at 6 under. And what ended up happening? Everyone else made a big mistake, a costly mistake that sent them backwards. Well, Scottie Scheffler just didn't do that. In fact, he got even better as the round progressed and wound up winning this bad boy by 4 shots, a touchdown victory over 3rd place. That's how good he was, man. It's scary to think that Scottie Scheffler has figured it out on the green seemingly ever since, Rory McIlroy gave him the advice to switch to that mallet putter. He's been gaining on the greens, and now it seems like there's no real weakness for Scottie Scheffler, and you have to wonder when it's going to stop, because we haven't seen any signs of it for a long, long time, Ross. This is a guy who hasn't missed a cut since the FedEx St. Jude, not last year, in 2022. It's incredible what he's doing right now, man. From a betting perspective, it's really frustrating when you don't bet on Scottie Scheffler and he's just there week in and week out. But at the same point in time, you got to respect the way that he's able to get around the most difficult courses in the world with ease. It's incredible.
I mean, one of the things they brought up for just how incredible he is in the coverage, they were saying statistically, this was one of the worst weeks that Scottie Scheffler has had in a long time. That he gave up several shots to the field in some areas, still held a one-stroke lead after Saturday, and wins the freaking thing by 4 shots on Sunday.
Yeah, and like I said, it's scary to think we haven't seen any flashes of him slowing down. Ross, one thing I wanted to run by you real quick, and it was an interesting conversation that I had with one of my buddies when I was driving back home from the bar yesterday. Enjoyed a nice Masters Sunday, had a couple of good eats, couple of cold drinks. It's how we like to do things around here when it's the final day at Augusta National. But I think Scottie gets, a little, I don't want to say a bad rap, but I want to say like a different perspective in people's minds because betting is so prominent today and he is the odds-on favorite by a landslide. And if you're someone who's betting and watching the PGA Tour week in and week out, you're not really betting Scottie Scheffler all that often. And as a result of that, you find yourself kind of rooting against him on Sundays more times than not. And even if you're not betting on Scottie, like I didn't have really anyone in the running yesterday, but I would have liked to see someone other than Scottie Scheffler win because it just would have been more interesting to me. And I wonder, like, what is it you think about Scottie Scheffler that doesn't have people falling in love with him? Because you see greatness in other sports and even in this sport. Tiger Woods, not comparing Scottie to Tiger, but he's basically doing the best run of anyone since Tiger Woods in the men's professional golf. Like we see it with Michael Jordan and in basketball, obviously, Kobe Bryant, and just stars in other games. Winners get loved in professional sports, but it feels like Scottie Scheffler doesn't have that same like lust around him. What do you attribute that to, Ross? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I definitely do, and I hope this makes sense because I've been trying to draw up in my head exactly what this problem is. Because on paper, it's really hard not to like Scottie Scheffler, like as a person, because he's so vanilla. Where he walks down the street holding hands with his wife to go get a cup of coffee. They do the same walk every single day. He's just he's casual and funny and polite all over the place in all his interviews. He's not this overly flashy personality. He's super humble and down to earth and just likes to play golf and is really fucking good at golf. I think what our problem is where he doesn't catch on and get this whole lust for him is the bar has been set so fucking high by Tiger Woods at what the peak of this game looks like to essentially be the guy. But the problem is, over the past 20 years, the game of golf has become so much more competitive that we're never going to see a run like Tiger had from the early 2000s into the early 2010s. We're not going to see that. That is never going to happen again for how big the changes come. People come on strong, people get hurt, people fall off. It's the fact that you need to basically break this into 2 different levels, almost like 2 different leagues where there's the PGA, then there's the PGA now. People need to pay attention and see if you're going PGA now, Scottie Scheffler is the definition of pretty much defining a new era. He is that generational player where even though the world number 1 is only about, in that consideration for about 2 years now, where he's been considered one of the best and had all this success, moving forward in the future, that's going to be a more significant thing that people are, I don't know if anyone's going to come up and give it a run in a 2-year time frame like we're seeing Scottie do right now. And so I think it's just the bar is set so high by us growing up on Tiger and the just being absolutely so dominant for so long. Where, I mean, he was more likely to win an event than he was to finish outside the top 10. Where I think it's just that narrative has been driven and the bar has been set so high that people just don't give him the credit where it's due, that they are technically in the same tier of player, and you just have to go with one of them did it for 20 years, the other one played in a more competitive level of golf more competitive field of golf. And what he's doing isn't just realistically never going to be matched. These past 2 years are not going to be caught.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of that and also what you said. Just Scottie Scheffler doesn't really give us a whole lot when he's not on the golf course. And that's probably what makes him the world number one. You know, like he's not flashy. He's not out doing all these things or spending all this money or has all these scandals. No, he's really focused on golf and being a good husband, being there for Meredith. And like, he's just so dialed in on that and clearly doesn't really care about like anything else. It doesn't really like give anything for people to like connect to or like even when he makes like big putts, it's really not like a big fiery fist pump or like those big moments. Like it's almost like it's not that relatable. Like how good Scottie Scheffler can be at golf is unrelatable. And also how he's so nonchalant about it also kind of feels unrelatable because like it feels like if any of us were in that position, we'd be like, yeah, we're the fucking shit out here and all this. I actually saw a funny clip on X today. I don't know who it was. It was an old clip, but it was like this college or amateur golfer. And he was talking about how he was like, I'm back on the 17th. I said, I'm gonna go up there and drill that putt. I'm gonna hit him with the huge celebration. And I quote tweeted it saying, if Scottie Scheffler talked like this, he'd probably be a bigger star because it just to me feels like there isn't really that attraction or that connection to him. And obviously like betting against him makes me, you know, have a little bit of a not a different view on him, but like it makes him frustrating in my mind. And at the same point in time, I'm never gonna examine, I guess, what he's doing or undersell how good he is and how much of a different level he is at than other people. I'm never going to do that. And I always recognize how talented he is. But yeah, there's just something about it that I just can't fully back. And I feel like this isn't just a thing for bettors. This is just a common thing in men's professional golf. Like, yeah, people love Scottie, but he doesn't have that allure, stardom around him for several different reasons, I think. But with or without it, Scottie Scheffler is surely the number one player in the world, man. And it's not even close. He reminded us that once again this weekend.
I mean, I think you hit it right on the head. And, you know, like you said, it's the lack that he's not really fiery. He loves to play golf. He's really good at golf, clearly. And it's the little things like when he wins his second Masters and they interview him, you know, Scottie, what are your emotions right now?
I want to go home.
Well, he's just like, well, this is an honor. Like, thank you, Augusta, again. And I miss my wife.
Yeah, I know.
And like that's it. Everyone else is breaking down and screaming and jumping around on the green and that. And he's just like, I miss my wife.
It's vanilla. It's meat and potatoes. There's nothing fancy about it, but it sure clearly does work for Scottie Scheffler, who is, as of now, still in the field for this week's RBC Heritage at Harbour Town Golf Links. I'm sure there are 68 other guys in that field that would have loved to not see Scottie Scheffler alongside them. We'll keep our fingers crossed that Meredith can come up more clutch for us this weekend than she did last weekend. But Ross, aside from Scottie Scheffler, there are a slew of other storylines that we got to get to here on today's show. Several other players who made big time statements, even though it wasn't a win this weekend. I think the next guy we should get to, though, has to be the 24-year-old Swedish sensation, Ludvig Aberg, because listen, ever since he stepped onto the scene and made his debut late last summer after leaving Texas Tech, you know, we've seen why he was touted as this high of a prospect, and he has the goods. Every time you see him, it's so impressive. One of the best driver swings I've ever seen. Hits it long and straight, which will fit beautifully at any type of golf course. It felt, though, you know, going into the week like most people had concerns, considering it was his first appearance at the Masters, and debutantes rarely do fare well at Augusta National. He said, get out of here with all of that. This kid is the truth. The man that gave Scottie Scheffler at the end in the leaderboard the best run for it, finishing at -7 with a runner-up finish for Ludvig Aberg. We're going to be hearing that name for a long time. And if you didn't know who he was prior to this weekend, you now know damn well who he is. And he's got no fear. He's not going to back down from anything. He'll stand right in your grill on the hardest golf courses in the world, make him look easy with a smile on his face. What a coming out party it was this week for Luddy F. Baby.
Absolutely. And, for debutantes usually struggling in this event their first time around, I was really impressed with how he got to the weekend because realistically, if you look Thursday and Friday, he did not make a lot of noise to start the tournament. He did the simplest thing you could do. I'm going to hit my shots, and when I get to my approach, I'm just going to land it in the center of the green, and I'm going to take what I get, and I'm just going to learn. I'm going to learn how it rolls out, how it feeds to the hole. Just the simplest rule in golf when you're getting started: don't aim at the pin, aim for the center of the green, regardless where the pin is, and give yourself a play for up and down, whatever, get out of there. And it's like he did the perfect textbook example of learning Augusta, where just get it on, learn what you can the first 2 days, make it to the weekend, and then you can be a little bit more aggressive because now you got 36 holes under your belt. And it was literally as he hit hole 37, it was like, oh, I can fucking play here. And then from there, it was the next 2 days of just absolutely going off, being able to take chances and hit the shots he normally hits because he felt comfortable. He knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, man. And to be able to do it in his first time at Augusta and just all the places he's gone to this year for the first time or so far in his young PGA Tour career. And, a lot of the guys he's up against have boatloads of experience on these tracks, and he's finding a way to beat most of these guys, man. I am so impressed with what he did this past week. I said on my show with Joey Ricotta last Wednesday before the Masters begun, I said, I think Ludvig could be a sneaky good one and done play this week, but I didn't actually expect him to be one of the few guys to have a chance to win this tournament. So yeah, I think this is what I actually wanted to ask you, Ross. Do you think, obviously Jon Rahm is gone, but with Rory McIlroy not being up to his elite form as of yet in 2024, do you think Ludvig is deserving of being second favorite now in tournaments behind Scottie Scheffler? Should he be a bigger favorite than Rory McIlroy?
Yes, absolutely.
I agree.
I for whatever reason, and I love Rory. I love Rory. Rory has just always been one of those icon players on the tour. Rory does not look like Rory at all. There is something wrong in between the ears up there where he says he's confident. He's not. And I don't, and the people that watch weekly, we know you're lying. Like, if whatever help you need, Rory, go get it, because the game of golf is better when you have your A game and you are on. But right now, I don't know what it is that every week we look at the odds boards and he's up there. Like, even this week again, he's down to 12-1. I'm not touching that number. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no way you could get me to bite on that.
Yeah, it's a shame for Rory too, man. Obviously there have been battles with all parts of his game all year long. It feels like he's never been able to put it all together for a single week, but it felt like he had some good traction coming in based on what he was able to do to close out the Valero Texas Open. But the irons, man, they just not only are they not good enough to get him over the hump or to hang with Scottie Scheffler, they're like genuinely bad when they're not on, and it costs him tournaments. And yeah, man, in between the years, it has got to be a lot of frustration boiling right now for Rory McIlroy. Obviously, he misses out on the Grand Slam once again at Augusta. But I just envision that weekend must have been so not fun for Rory McIlroy. Never having a sniff of being in contention, never able to generate any momentum, never able to go on like a huge birdie streak, to have to go and play those final rounds in those conditions, knowing he's nowhere near contention. I just imagine Rory McIlroy had to be fuming based on that playing out the way it did over the weekend.
Well, I mean, it just got progressively worse. Like, Thursday, the irons weren't working for him. Then Friday, the driver's not working for him. He's going left, right, all over the place. Saturday, the putter's not working. He's rolling it right past the hole, missing by a cup length, whatever, to the outside, to the inside. And then Sunday is just a culmination of all three. Let's see what fucking doesn't work on this hole this time.
Yeah. A lot of frustration for Rory McIlroy. We'll be talking more about him a little bit later on in the show, as there has been some rather interesting news with his name in the headlines. But before we do, there's some other players that we got to talk about for their positive performance at Augusta National this past week. Max Homa, I think, has to keep his head up, and it sounds like he is based on the posts that he made on Instagram and his kind of takeaways after the tournament is wrapped up. I know he didn't come away with a win, but even he said so himself. Winning looks different in the game of golf. And I think with Max getting this taste, having the opportunity to be in these situations and finally kind of kick that door down to be in contention at a major championship, I think that absolutely has to be a huge positive and is a big stepping stone in Max Homa getting to that next stage of his career where he's not only contending in major championships, but he can finally go and get himself one, because we've seen him win big boy events. We've seen him win at Riv. We've seen him win at Quail, or it wasn't at Quail Hollow. It was actually at TPC Potomac for the Wells Fargo, because it wasn't at Quail Hollow because that was hosting the President's Cup. Sorry that I just had to think that out loud real quick, but he still won some big time golf tournaments, but the majors, for whatever reason, just had always eluded him. You got to feel positive about Max and his chances in these big boy tournaments moving forward after what he was able to do this weekend. Even though I did have some critiques with his game, or more so his strategy, it was real big for Max to have this opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. And he's the perfect counterpoint to Rory between the ears, where normally the past several tournaments Max has played, he's looked nervous, jittery, wiry when he's on the course. And then for whatever reason at Augusta, he's in contention for his first major, and he looked just zoned in, eyes down the fairway, focused. What's my next shot? Just completely unnerved, unrattled, he played Augusta the correct way, where he basically played even par golf. If you can take advantage of the par fives, that is all you need to do to find yourself in contention on Sunday. And it's what he did all week. When everyone else was making mistakes and the winds were tossing the ball around left and right, he played even. He came through 18 even. He held his spot on the board. The next day he goes a little bit lower to move himself up the board. And then we had Sunday yesterday where until the very end, when we did the second 9, that's where it started to come apart a little bit, but he also had to start taking some risks to try to do anything to catch Scottie.
That's the thing though. I don't know if he took many risks. And that was the one knock that I had about Max Homa this week. I think you said it perfectly. He played Augusta how it's supposed to be played. You're out there making pars. I don't think he played aggressively enough at the par fives on the back 9 on either Saturday nor Sunday. And I know Sunday is a bit of a tricky one when you're down 3 strokes going to 15 and you need to make something happen. It depends on the guy and it depends on the situation. Like some guys are maybe more inclined to go and play hero ball because they want that win. But also if you lose out on that, you could be costing yourself several placements in the leaderboard, and that's thousands of dollars. I know these guys make a ton of money, but it's still something to consider. Absolutely. The risk reward of golf shots. I felt like, Max Homa down 3 at 15, he laid up, man. There was just times where I think he had to press it a little more certain than others. Like I liked his mentality going around Augusta because par is a fine score a majority of the time, but there are certain shots that you just have to make to be the one to actually win at Augusta. And Scottie was the one who took him to me. Even, on 15, when he's up 3 himself, he still goes for the green on 15 and, risked pushing it right. He almost found the water. He found that bunker over there. It wasn't a perfect lie, but he took on the shots that in order to win this place, I think you got to take them on. And I think that's one thing that I hope Max Homa learns from it is there wasn't really anything wrong with the strategy as a whole. There's just certain times where I think you got to fire it up a little bit more and you got to be willing to take those risks. Ultimately, I don't think it was going to make a difference in catching Scottie Scheffler in this particular instance. But that was just the one thing that I noticed about Max, but undoubtedly a really impressive week out of him. And like I said, a real major stepping stone. And it looked like he was going to be the last one to hang in there with Scottie Scheffler until he unfortunately found the bush at number 12 and left himself in a really awkward lie. But I was thinking though, I mean, if it wasn't going to be Scottie, I was really interested to see who it was going to be. And I was almost kind of feeling like it was going to be Max, because one thing people forget about Max, while he hasn't shown it up until this past week at Augusta, he's actually a good closer. He's one of the few guys who I know have the stones to go and close on Sunday, and he's proved that in his career. Like when he won at Riv and when he won at TPC Potomac, like those were all dicey finishes that he had to go and win. It wasn't because the other guy gagged it away. It was because Max Homa was the one to go and get it on Sunday. He didn't do it this time at the Masters, but I have a feeling that is not going to be like something we see multiple times out of Max Homa. The next time he gets in one of those final two pairings, I think he's really going to lean on this experience. And based on what he's done throughout his career in the mix on Sunday, I don't know if it's going to be this year. I don't know if it's going to be next year, but the next time he gets that opportunity, I'm more confident in Max Homa than probably anyone else not named Scottie Scheffler to go and close it out.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. He just looked different for whatever reason. I don't know if it's mental coaching, anything. He looked different. He looked confident that even though he hasn't won a major, he's walking the course like, I fucking deserve to be here.
And the one guy I could never really buy into going into Sunday, even though he was in the final pairing, it was Collin Morikawa, because a couple different things here. And tell me if you felt differently about this roster, kind of your thoughts on Morikawa, but just based on the form coming in, I know form isn't everything. And I know this truly doesn't matter. But in my mind, I just always thought Collin Morikawa doesn't deserve to win this one. He's just not in the right form to truly go up against the rest of these guys and to win, in my opinion, because we just hadn't seen the consistency out of the long iron game, which is normally, what separates him from the rest of the players, what he can do with his accurate driving and how he can hit his long irons. And even through Friday and Saturday to get him into that final pairing, Ross, he was doing a whole lot of scrambling and making a heck of a lot of putts. He made a putter change going into Friday's round, and that seemed to work wonders for him. I just never, I guess, fully believed that Morikawa was going to be able to keep it all together on Sunday to actually win this thing. Am I surprised that he was in contention? No, because Collin Morikawa has shown us in major championships at a young age that he already can hang with the big dogs. I just never felt like, and again, this doesn't really matter, but I never felt like he would have been a rightful winner. Does that make sense?
It does, but I also live bet Collin Morikawa on Friday morning when he started going low and when it was super windy and everyone was struggling. And I look and it's like, oh, Collin Morikawa is 3 under through like 5 right now. So I went and I hit that, and up until late yesterday afternoon, I was feeling great. But this actually brings me to believe counterpoint to you with Max Homa, where Max laying up on 15 when it was go time. The thing I didn't like with Collin yesterday is I felt like he put the foot on the gas too early.
And he didn't make the putts when he did.
Especially when they hit the back 9. He's only 1 shot behind Scottie. He's pacing him. And as soon as they get to Amen corner, he puts the ball in the water trying to hit the Scottie shot, where that shot's in Scottie's bag. Like you said, with the long iron inaccuracy, that's Scott's and Shottie's bag. That shot's not in your bag right now. Do your up and down shit you've been doing the past 3 days that has gotten you into this group. And no, he pulled out the big stick. He tried to match Scottie. He put it in the water. And from there, we all just kind of knew that's realistically going to be it with what's left to play. And really it fed into Scottie going, all right, I'm up 2 on these guys now. And I have a chance for a birdie right here. And so I did like Collin going into this. I was really impressed with how he was putting it all together. I just felt like he put the foot on the gas a little too early. That move needed to be made following Amen corner. Not going straight into it. When we get to 15, 16, let's put the pressure on, where hopefully at that point, Scottie's still 1 up on him. But all right, now I'm coming for you. Now I'm gonna try to match, and I'm gonna make you match me. I feel like he just jumped too early, and he jumped early, he made the mistake early, and he took himself out of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point that you just brought up. I felt like that shot at 11 is the aggressiveness he needed to play 13 and 15 with to go and try and steal one from Scottie, assuming that he's going to go and make birdie on those holes. I think you're absolutely right, because what you couldn't do at number 11 was make a 6, which is what Collin and Ludvig ended up doing. A 5 probably still hurts, considering that Scottie makes a 4 there, but you still probably feel a little bit better about your chances. And as we know, golf's a huge mental game, and having that confidence, you make a 5, it's probably not the end of the world. Making 6 there really does feel like you just shot yourself in the foot in terms of your chances. So yeah, I probably agree that Collin Morikawa pressed the button a little bit too soon there, but maybe a good sign that better days are to come for Mr. Morikawa. It would have been crazy though if he had won that thing and out of nowhere seemingly already secured 3 of the 4 legs of the career Grand Slam in like the most randomest of fashion. I mean, not a lot of people were targeting him going into Harding Park back in 2020 when that was still very early in his career. If you remember, Ross, going into that Open Championship that he won, he talked with Kyle Porter of CBS and said he switched to new irons and said his iron swing felt absolutely lost. And like we said earlier about Collin Morikawa, like that's his bread and butter. That's his baby. So to hear his irons are bad, everyone was like, no, stay away from Collin Morikawa at a place he's never played at before. He goes and wins the Open. And it was almost like the same thing with him this week. No one really had any intrigue all that much other than my boy Joey Ricotta, because funny story, he had a 25-1 future ticket on Collin Morikawa thinking he was going to have a big start to his 2024. Nope, that didn't happen. He swelled all the way up to 60-1 before the start of the tournament. But shout out to Joey for not being scared. He went and double dipped and made his Sunday a lot more fun than my Sunday was, with all my losers that weren't in contention and just waiting on the dead man Xander Schauffele to make a run, which I knew was a bad idea in and alone of itself. But also, Ross, Bryson DeChambeau, the content king, gave us a lot of content throughout the course of this week. I know it wasn't the finish that he wanted to have, but I just thought it was a great reminder. Golf is better when Bryson is playing good, because he's just must-see TV. Whether you hate him, whether you love him, yeah, he's a kind of weird, kooky little bit of a golf nerd. I love it, though. I'm always here for it. I'm here for Bryson going about things differently and going and grabbing a sign out of the ground and carrying himself, or doing that random like wave by movement. I don't know what he's doing out there, but I'm always here for it. When Bryson DeChambeau is playing well, I firmly believe the game of golf's in a better place.
I loved the picking up the sign and moving it, only for the official to be like, you can't do that. And oh, my bad. And put in the fact, all the pictures that have him like carrying it like Jesus on a cross.
Oh,
just
great.
Trying to move it out of the way. But there's the 3D irons, 3D printed irons just approved on Monday. Fuck it, I'm gonna throw these in my master's bag. This seems like a great idea. But it did make me laugh that he played into a very common theme for several players of another tour, that all of them seem to disappear after 54 holes.
Yeah, not the best finish for Mr. DeChambeau, certainly. But yeah, like you said, he does it differently, and I love it. And I think what I also love and appreciate about Bryson is he's not scared to fail, and he's not scared to do it in front of like thousands of people. Like, he's really not. He's very okay with himself being the different type of golfer he is, and he knows that everything he does is with the intention to get better. And that's what I uber respect out of Bryson DeChambeau, is he's like the game's greatest tinkerer. And it feels like his kind of polarization in terms of, like I said, how people love him or hate him, it feels like that's lost in today's PGA Tour. You don't really have enough guys like that. And I still think Bryson is forever going to be cursed at Augusta National for calling it a par 67, and I'll never bet on him at Augusta, probably for that reason. But I think you have to love where the game is trending in terms of with the PGA Championship up ahead and the US Open, because we know what Bryson does. He hits it further than anyone. He, when he's right, can putt better than everyone. It's just kind of everything in between if it can come together. When it does, he's capable of going on a Scottie Scheffler dust everyone by 5 or 6 type of run. And we saw that in the first round, which, ended up being the only real promising round that Bryson DeChambeau had. But still, what were your kind of thoughts on Bryson altogether this week, Ross?
It's just another one of those things where when the live guys come back, you really do see how much we actually miss the personalities. Yeah. When they had him mic'd up at times with his caddy, especially on the final day, was hilarious, where his caddy's trying to talk him through, like, no, let's go over here, and then Bryson's just shaking his head like, no, I think I can do it. I can do it. And his caddy's trying to warn him, like, the water is right there, man. Like, if this goes wrong, like, we're done. No, I think we can do it. And then the second he hits it, you just hear Bryson, nope.
He kind of has like Jordan and Michael Greller like type of vibe conversations out there. Like, honestly, if you were just to mic up Bryson DeChambeau, you're going to get a lot of content, I promise. There are a lot of interesting and different ways that he goes about things out there.
Yeah, I mean, I was laughing because he had hot mic moments of, like, when he put one in the crowd and he like turns and he like giggles like, I wonder how many that took out.
Yeah.
Like, he just immediately embraces, like, I hit people. I wonder how many I hit. But I know I hit people. There's no way I didn't.
Wonder how many that fastball took out.
Yeah. No, it's definitely one of those things where the majors come back and show us how much we do miss some of these personalities like Bryson. And I mean, he's an electric factory. For how psychotic he is. Where I was listening, I think Foreplay did a brief segment on him last week that it seems like every year or couple months he's working with someone new. He's working with a new specialist. He's doing a new technology, and it's just the theory. Like, I think he just wants to learn everything a little bit about everything that he can.
Yeah.
I'm gonna work with this coach and I'm gonna learn this aspect. And the second I'm done with him, I'm gonna get another coach that has a completely different perspective on this aspect of the game. But I want to know all angles of, like, how I hit my irons between like the 8 best coaches out there. I'm gonna have them all work for me.
The master tinkerer. But what's interesting is that just brought me back to, if Bryson DeChambeau was having, obviously he's on a different tour now, but let's just say for the sake of this argument, he's still on the PGA Tour. If he's doing what Scottie Scheffler is doing, he's booming because of his personality and the way he goes about things. And he, like Scottie, in the same way, like, really good at golf. All he seemingly cares about is getting better at golf, and he'll turn over any stone to get better at that. But very, like, 2 different people. And again, there's more polarization around Bryson DeChambeau, whereas everyone's just kind of like, man, Scottie Scheffler. No one's really one way or the other. It's just in the middle. And that's not particularly great for, like, his marketing in a sense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But I mean, it shows, like, how personality really does drive this game. It's not just the golf, it's the personality.
Yeah, 100%. Guy who also had a lot of personality, who made the cut for the 24th consecutive time in a row at Augusta National this week. A man we have yet to talk about here on today's show, believe it or not, is Tiger Woods. Made the cut at Augusta National once again, as he's done every year since turning pro. The only time he missed was as an amateur way back when. Saturday was unfortunately kind of, I think you saw the signs of him having to compound 23, 24 holes, whatever it was, in a single day to finish up that first round on Friday morning. And Saturday looks like it just got the better of him. But altogether, man, and I was someone who spoke out about how I was down on Tiger Woods going into last week. It was like what I expected, to be honest. I expected him, like I said, to be good enough to make the cut through 2 rounds, but I just didn't know how anyone could be confident about his chances of playing well for 4 consecutive days based on how we hadn't seen it. But in terms of the result, I'm not really talking like the final score. What you saw out of Tiger Woods throughout 4 days at this event, and his willingness to go and finish the tournament when everyone and their mother knew after Saturday he obviously wasn't in contention for anything, but the willingness to finish the tournament, plus looking pretty sharp, I would say, for my expectations. And I think for the general golf community's expectations out of Tiger Woods at Augusta, I think you got to give it 2 thumbs up, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the only bad day was Saturday, and and come on. I mean, they're showing pictures of him where he's on like the 8th hole, and he's just dousing himself in icy hot all over the place, and you could tell he's feeling it. You could like he's pouring. It's not even that hot out. He's pouring sweat, just absolutely covered in sweat. You can see he's physically exhausted, feeling it right now. Where I threw Saturday out because you could just tell that he gritted his teeth and he got through that round. That he was not feeling well at all, just not holding up physically at all. And then goes back Sunday and shoots what 4 or 5 over.
Yeah, I think he shot 77 5 over on the last day, which is respectable in those conditions.
So it's what I mean. Like the first, he shoots one over for the weekend to make it to the weekend. Follows up with a 10 over, just disaster Saturday. And I don't mean the golf. I mean like his body just wanting to shut down on him. And then he goes out and follows it again with a 5 over the day after, basically looking like he's going to die on the course in pain and discomfort. Overall, it was a win for me. I think that was a huge step. He played all 4, and 3 of the 4 were competitive golf.
I would say acceptable golf for his standards in 3 of the 4 rounds. And I think the best or the most encouraging takeaway I have isn't actually Tiger making the cut. It's coming after that. What did he shoot? 84, 83 on Saturday? Like absolutely brutal. I know it was his worst round at Augusta ever. And I think his worst round in a major ever.
He shot 11 over, so 83.
Yeah, so he shot 83. To go back out there on Sunday after his body was clearly exhausted, I mean, that round just absolutely spiraled out of control after like 5 or 6. You could just tell he was laboring and was not going to be able to piece it back together in the middle of a round at Augusta National. But to go back out there on Sunday, and maybe this isn't an accomplishment, but to break 80 and to shoot 77, like a respectable score for where his game at, to me, that was the most encouraging sign of the week out of Tiger Woods, was that he was able to fight through, finish those 4 days. He could have easily still mailed it in on that Sunday and just been proud of finishing 72 holes in a real golf tournament other than his, hit and giggle in the Bahamas. Finish a 4-round golf tournament for the first time in a long, long time. So I was really happy with what I saw out of Tiger Woods. I think, we talked the last several weeks leading into Augusta based on his absences. I think you just had to be concerned with an injury of some sort or the body more so than like the flu that caused him to withdraw from round 2 of the Genesis. Thanks a lot, In and Out. I think it was a confirmation that his body still is good enough to do it. I don't know if it's ever going to get to that supreme level once again, but you at least, I think, leave this week confident in hearing Tiger Woods say, I want to go to that 1 start a month plan. I certainly have more confidence that he's going to be able to do that based on him getting through 4 days and the way he did it at Augusta than I was leading into this tournament, because, that was the ideal kind of setup for him going into this year, and obviously diverted from that plan. I'm much more confident that he can get back on that schedule after seeing what he did at Augusta, Ross.
Absolutely. I'm going to go out on the record for the show in general and say, no, fans, we are not going to see Tiger before Valhalla. We will see Tiger at Valhalla. Just he ain't going to do another one that quick. He's going to, we will see Valhalla is going to be next. He's going to take the next 4 weeks and recuperate after what he just put his body through to try to be competitive there. And I needed to ask your opinion, because Mr. Woods, very photogenic on Sunday at Augusta. You're telling me no one got another angle besides it looking like he's shaking hands with a tree when he said his goodbye to Vern?
I know.
For how big this event is, for how huge Vern is to this event. All the sports media people like us that like this is our job. No one got that angle where you can see them actually like having their moment. It just looks like Tiger's shaking hands with a tree.
And sadly, now it's just going to be a meme forever. It's not going to be a special moment between two of the greats that made Augusta so special to what it is. It's just going to be a meme because it looks like Tiger Woods is shaking hand with a tree.
Yep, and my favorite caption was the Tiger shaking hands with the tree
Woods.
and Tiger saying, "Yeah," and Tiger saying, "I just want to let you know I drive electric."
I saw it was like Big Log, the dap up handshake. It was like Big Log. That was a good one. Then Tiger and like the Woods handshake emoji in the middle. Yeah, there were a lot of good ones. But shout out to Vern, man. It's gonna be it's gonna be different without him. The voice of many different calls, and I know not only in just golf, but in a lot of different sports. Kind of just like a figure that a lot of people will have synonymous with some of the great sporting events and listening to sports growing up. I loved all the tribute and the respect that they gave to Vern. Other than that picture, they definitely could have gotten a better little snippet there of him and Tiger Woods together. But to give him the tribute that he deserved, it was special. I really enjoyed everything out of Vern this week.
Oh, I was a wreck on like Wednesday after our show with John because they had Vern on live at the Masters and they're just doing like a 10-minute montage of him and his calls, and like they flash off of it and Vern's sitting in the chair and just has waterfalls coming down. I'm like, guys, you're gonna kill him. Come on.
Yeah,
like,
right. Who's got the onions in here?
Let him have his last 4 days. We're 5 days out and you got him like in full tears already.
I know. It's never easy saying goodbye to those greats. Thank God we still have Jim Nantz.
But you know what we can say goodbye to, hopefully forever, because Augusta said goodbye to it. Jason Day's fucking outfits.
I was just about to go there, man. That was the next point that I was going to get to. Atrocious. Reached a new level of bad. He looked like a pack of cigs. Literally looked like a Marlboro box out there.
He looked like a pack of old school cowboy killers.
Yes, literally. And it's gotten out of hand, Malbon. I mean, come on. You got to have a little bit more respect for Augusta National than that. Ross, I don't know if you saw my tweet, but I felt inclined to read this on the show again. Did you see my list of things relatively terrible yet better than Jason Day's outfits?
I did.
Okay. For the fine people back home who maybe didn't see the post, and go and comment down below. I'm sure there are other things that are relatively terrible that are still better than Jason Day's outfits. On this list of things relatively terrible, yet better than Jason Day's outfits, I have Rory McIlroy's irons at Augusta, Tyrrell Hatton's language problem, golf rules that allow Jordan Spieth to hit the ball into the clubhouse gutter and get a free drop. Terrible rule, still better than Jason Day's outfit. People who bet Joaquin Niemann at 28-1 to win the Masters, I thought was absolutely insane. Guys never top 15 in a major. I'm sorry, had to do it. Meredith not giving birth before the end of the Masters. Terrible, but not worse than Jason Day's outfits. PGA Tour broadcasts, and we'll get there in just a second because there's more on this, per usual, here on Golf on Tap. Brando Chambly, terrible, still not as bad as Jason Day's outfits. Live Golf, bad golf, hard to watch, not serious team format, still better than Jason Day's outfits. And then Zach Johnson's captaincy at the Ryder Cup. And I made sure to put an asterisk next to this one to make sure people know it's Zach Johnson's job as captain for the United States at the Ryder Cup, not Zach Johnson himself, because there's nothing worse than Zach Johnson.
Yep.
That was a load of crap.
The fact, I just love the fact that, he put that on, he walked out to that tee box, and the second he got to the tee box, the Augusta official walked up and was like, yeah, that shit's got to go. Just no. I love that Augusta just sticking to their rules, even in the Masters tournament. Homeboy, this is our fucking house. Like,
dude, and it wasn't even just the shirts, the pants. I said on X, I think Tracy McGrady on the NBA Central back in like 2007, I think he had better wearing pants. I think Carmelo Anthony had a better wearing outfit at the 2004 NBA draft. The pants, it looked like he could blow away.
I said on Thursday when he was on the green, I put a post on X saying I'm legitimately concerned for Jason Day's safety, that these pants are going to pick up like a sail and he's going to fly away.
You could have used his pants as a hot air balloon. They were that baggy. They were terrible. Terrible. You think Jason Day's gonna come back with some better fits, or you think Malbon's gonna double down here?
Oh, I think they're going to continue to double down, and I think
they're gonna double down.
I think he's going to continue to wear because he gets paid a lot of money to look like an idiot every week now.
Yeah. Hey, I truly didn't think it was going to get more outlandish than some of the stuff we saw Victor wearing last year. No one's even remembering the stuff that Victor was putting on last year based on what Jason Day is wearing to these bad boys, Ross.
Yeah, no, it becomes a moment of it. Every time he walks on the course and they put him on the TV, me is just the meme of Brooks with Bryson walking behind him. Just every
pure
time
disdain.
Every time they show him, like, what is it today? Like, just let me see it. Let me just get it out, get my heavy sigh out, and just,
yeah, it was brutal.
Just get it out of the way. Just quick and easy, like a Band-Aid. Just first thing in the morning, show me what does it look like, so I can just get it out. Old man yells at cloud. Just get it out.
Yes, except we're right this time if we're the old men in this situation. There's a gripe to be had with Jason Day's outfits. Tough look for Joey Ricotta's boy. Joey Ricotta used a nice $100 free bet on Jason Day at 80-1 odds to win this Masters. Would have won a nice 8 Gs. Said he would have taken me out to dinner if that would have hit. So unfortunately it did not. For some brutal fits out of Jason Day. Speaking of brutal, Ross, week in and week out, what we see in terms of the broadcast and the coverage, I wouldn't call what we got this week at the Masters brutal, but I would say in comparison to how I felt coming out of the Masters and the coverage that they've put together in the last 2 to 3 years since I've really been in this golf scene and paying attention to the nitty-gritty and all this stuff, this was the most disappointed I've come out of the Masters week, Ross. I was not really thrilled with the coverage. CBS not having anything on TV until Sunday. Oh, we boosted it up till 1 o'clock on Sunday. Awesome. We didn't get the broadcast on the Masters app in the mornings. You had to go and follow your guys between 4, 5, and 6. And look, you still had the opportunity to watch a lot of your guys, and that I'm not going to ignore. The Masters app was this year still better than what we get out of the PGA Tour app and their broadcast on a week-to-week basis. It's still underwhelming to me that, look, I told you this before recording, Scottie Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Rory McIlroy are in a pairing on Thursday and Friday, and we don't have them on featured coverage. And I know because I bet on Xander that I probably wanted to see him more than some other folks. You would have thought he missed the cut based on how much they showed him in the weekend. The guy was T6 in the third to last pairing going into Sunday. Did he have a chance to win it? Probably not. Certainly not if Scottie Scheffler was shooting 68 on Sunday. But you would have thought Xander Schauffele was dead. Cam Smith, you would have forgotten he was even still a player. You probably saw 3 shots out of Cam Smith. The guy finished in the top 10. It's just decisions. It feels like there's no, what's the word I'm looking for here? There's no talking between each other in terms of making this better. There's no progression. There's no feedback, I guess is kind of the word that I was looking for. It's like just what it is what it is, and we're just going to put it out to the people. That's what it is. And that's what it felt like we got this week. I was just really underwhelmed because even when we got to CBS, they were only showing 4 guys. And we're still missing, on Sunday, we're still missing some tee shots from Max Homa and Bryson DeChambeau. The final pair, the second to last pairing. I mean, come on.
They definitely missed on it, but then they just missed on good golf in general. Like, I get it. He was out of the running. Do you know what Tom Kim shot yesterday?
Yeah, he shot a 66.
65.
Right? 65, yeah.
Like, yes, I get it. Tom Kim is going to place like 25th in this fucking event, but he's one of the only people out there in the morning, and he's going low immediately. Did we see a single shot of Tom Kim's round? No, we did not. We just saw him post the tie for tournament low.
Right. Oh, and you got highlights on the featured group on the Masters app, but if you actually wanted to track Tom Kim, see how he was going to close out the round, he couldn't.
No. Just absolutely stupid. Where when it comes to Augusta, it's playing the course. It's people attacking and playing the course where, yes, Tom Kim finished like 25th, 30th, whatever. He's still tied the lowest round of the week. That shit needs to be like Tom Kim the rest of his life can say, oh, I shot 65 at Augusta.
And I know also like the favorites on, I don't like, you know how you can do my group on the Masters app and you can see there were just random people in there. Like I'm getting shots of Harris English and Sepp Straka. I'm like, I didn't star Harris English or Sepp Straka. I mean, this is my favorites, but it seems like they're just the PGA Tour's people that they want to pump out. Like it was just a letdown to me. And and I'm not just saying that because we've been on this tangent since we've been doing a show, and me and Joey have been saying it for a couple of years now together as well, doing our betting podcast. I've come out of the Masters been delighted ever since I've been a golf fan. This week I wasn't. This week I just wasn't.
No, this week was rough. And I mean, especially, you had to follow on ESPN Plus and everything until late afternoon, and then CBS kicks in, and it's like, great, we're gonna see the final 17 holes played, because half the time they were even missing the initial tee shots for the guys going off.
Oh, nothing more infuriating. There are a couple things infuriating to me. One is whenever there's like pre-round coverage on Golf Channel, they always end at like 12:52 or 1:52. They end 8 minutes early. They run all of their ads. And then when CBS takes over, here comes fucking Steve Sands talking for 5 minutes. It's like, dude, we just changed the channel so we can flip over and carry over what you guys were doing on the pregame. Don't restart this. Like, don't restart this whole thing. Give us the whole spiel. Show us all the highlights at the beginning. Trust me, we've been watching, buddy. We only changed to this channel because you're making us. Imagine the Masters equivalent to the Super Bowl for golf. Imagine having to change the channel 3 fucking times for the Super Bowl. 1, you're going to lose a lot of eyeballs. You're going to lose a lot of attention. 2, it's just a joke that this has to happen in 2024, man. The Masters, this is your bread and butter, as good as it gets. I know it's not the PGA Tours, but it's the biggest week in golf. You should be pumping that fucking bad boy through the roof. And they just don't, man. They just don't. It's a fucking shame.
HBO, come get this thing. Make it $100 pay-per-view event for 4 days. Here's every hole, every shot. Flip your holes, follow your players. I will pay the $100 for the 4 days of content that I can sit and watch every fucking shot, any player I want, anytime. HBO's got the shit. They could do it.
I would 100% do that for the major championships. And I promise, if you build it, they will come. It needs to happen. Ross,
I'd like to trademark. I would like Golf on Tap to also trademark that for when HBO actually does that. We are going to need some licensing in that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we need a little bit of a piece of that pie. But Ross, before we kind of move on from the Masters, also, I do have this written down in my notes. I didn't want to forget about these guys. Shout out to Adam Schenk and Mathieu Pavon, both finishing T12 this past week, earning themselves invitations back to Augusta National next year. You look at the top 10, Ross. I mean, big name. These are the first kind of 2 maybe like unexpected guys who, with a good performance this week, is going to do themselves a lot of favors moving forward. Obviously, Mathieu Pavon, we've seen this throughout the course of the season. Adam Schenk had a good campaign last year, but really hasn't gotten off to a good start so far this year. Always happy when you see guys like that earn themselves another trip back to Augusta based on solid performances. I think even Schenk shot 1 under in his last 3 holes with 17 and 18, obviously playing tough. 1 under in his final 3 holes to get that T12 and invited back to Augusta next year.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where we've been on since the beginning of the year. Mathieu Pavon, it's just really hard not to like him. Like, he's got the badass tattoo on his hand. Just overall, he comes off as just a really good guy, and he plays good golf. And he's in his rookie season. He's making the most of all his opportunities. Already got the win. already locked down a spot in the majors. Now locked himself into a spot Augusta again next year. I'm trying to drop a comparison who I think he can be.
That's a
Like
good question.
in terms of the tour long run, where I feel like he's going to end up staying around being one of these consistent players that, you know, he squeaks off a win or two a year, but mainly he's going to be right in the middle of that pack in that top 25 weekly, getting those FedEx Cup points and playing late into the summer. I'm just trying to think who I would compare him to.
You know who I would compare him to? And this is unfair because any comparison is going to be unfair. They're comparisons. They're just for fucking fun. So no one take this brutally. I would kind of compare him to Tyrrell Hatton. I think he could be a Tyrrell Hatton. Like, I don't know if he's going to win a bunch, but I think he could be a really good player. And I certainly think he's a better caliber of player than kind of I don't want to say respect level around him, but kind of how he's considered in people's minds, even though he did win at Torrey Pines this year and has a bunch of good finishes and finished inside the top 12 here at Augusta. I still feel like people haven't really understood the level of talent that he is yet. I don't think he's like a PGA Tour superstar, but I think he's a very good and consistent player. And we saw it last year in the DP World Tour when he seemed to really kind of find that next gear. I would not be surprised if this, like you said, like isn't just a one-off type of run for Mathieu Pavon. I really expect he could be a guy that contends at multiple tournaments through the course of the year, and yeah, it is liable to picking one off a year. I think he has that type of game. He's really solid.
Definitely agree, and also I like the fact that you do the Tyrrell Hatton comparison. Only because shout out Tyrrell Hatton for the hot mic and potentially being the first and only person in the history of the Masters to call Augusta a cunt.
Oh yeah, I mean the man is never afraid to speak his mind. Oh my god, it was so good when he was playing with Tiger too. That is the fucking biggest bounce I've ever seen. Like he's just so great out there. But again, you can relate to Tyrrell Hatton because that's how most of us feel on the golf course. There's something relatable there about Tyrrell Hatton.
Yeah, I mean, especially, there were a couple of drives that he absolutely mashed and went so long, like longer than he was expecting. And then like he goes into the pine straw and he's just sitting there and he's calling himself a cunt. And he's like, how could I ever hit that shot? I've never hit that. And I'm going to hit it here now.
Right. He's freaking hilarious, dude. Must see TV at all times. Mathieu Pavon, though, one thing I didn't want to bring up real quick, just one final talking point about him. Torrey Pines crossover this year was pretty strong. And I know Torrey Pines is somewhere you always consider along with Riv, and those two places are kind of the two correlations that people look for. Torrey Pines really had a correlation this year. Mathieu Pavon inside the top 12. Nicolai Højgaard, who also performed well at Torrey Pines this past year, was in the mix. And at one point, the solo leader on Saturday at Augusta, which seemed to kind of dawn on him at the moment. He was like, oh shit, I'm leading this thing, and then made 5 straight bogeys. Still expect better things out of Nicolai Højgaard, but something to just consider moving forward if you're doing some research into the Masters. Maybe Torrey Pines has a little bit more of a correlation than we gave credit to this year. But Ross, to kind of tie a bow on everything Masters here, I know we're already at an hour. We still got to get to Harbour Town this week. I don't want to keep you for too long, my friend. I know you're an hour ahead of me and you got work in the morning, but I wanted to go through some quick Masters superlatives with you. I only got 3 of them, and we'll just go one by one. You give yours first, then I'll give mine. In terms of who was the biggest winner, other than Scottie Scheffler, we're going to exclude him from this list because obviously he's the biggest winner. And you can't include Ted Scott either because he's probably the second biggest winner from all the dough that he's collecting. 10% of Scottie Scheffler's winnings, probably making better coin than a majority of the players on the PGA Tour this year. But other than that combination, who is your biggest winner from this week? Who is your biggest loser? And who is your biggest surprise? First, give me your biggest winner from this week, Ross.
Biggest winner from this week, I'm going to go with Ludvig Aberg in that not just Masters debut, major debut. Dude's got the stones. Went out there, showed it that not only is it every week on the PGA Tour can he compete, when it comes to the big ones, he's got the stones, and he's able to throw his name in the hat and be taken seriously when we start to roll into these next three over the next 3 months.
Yeah, I think Ludvig is obviously a very good choice there. I, though, am going to go with Max Homa. I think Max Homa is the biggest winner of this week. As I talked about earlier, kicked down that wall, if you will, got himself some experience, and I really think that's just going to be positive for him in the next stage of his career. And he already had that mentality, like we talked about, and having the belief and being able to dial in and stay focused out there. And now we've heard him just say, he has that self-belief in himself to believe that he's a dog over all of these shots. And I just really think this is going to be a very positive experience for him moving forward, and just being able to have experiences to rely on and know he's been in these high pressure moments at the biggest stages, I think is going to give him even more confidence moving forward. So I'm going to go with Max Homa. Ludvig Aberg, certainly worthy of a shout out there for biggest winner this week as well. Who do you got for biggest loser? This is going to be interesting.
My biggest loser, unfortunately, Rory. Man, that the whole he was such a big part of the week leading in that, oh, Rory's got a chance. Just we didn't hear shit over 4 days. Never even relatively closer in the hunt to anything significant. I think it's just another year, another shot gone, and the odds of finishing the career Grand Slam dwindle even further.
I forgot to say I had a two-parter for my biggest winner. My second one was Augusta National. Augusta National was awesome this past week. I thought the conditions were perfect for what the tournament should be, baked out, firm greens, very difficult to maneuver. And I didn't think it was unfair, even with the winds gusting as fast as they were on Saturday and Sunday. You heard like Xander Schauffele be like, I still thought it was fair. Everyone had to deal with it. And I just think those are the types of tournaments that truthfully the people do want to see. They want to see the best players in the world challenged. And Augusta National does that each and every year. But I just thought this year in particular, it was a really good setup. So I really enjoyed that. They deserve credit as a winner this week. My loser, though, certainly could go with Rory McIlroy. I'm going to go with another player who's held in the same breath as him. I'm going to go with Jordan Spieth, man. Oh, my goodness. The 9 that he made on 15 during the opening round really just sent him in a bad spiral. And you could tell he's also mentally frustrated out there. And for him to miss the cut at a happy spot like Augusta National, a place that he's had a great track record at for a majority of his career. Missing the cut here, I think, is just kind of a synopsis of what Jordan Spieth is dealing with. It's a whole lot of what the fuck is going on, because there's nothing really good or consistent about his game right now. The driving, none of it's really all that consistent. Even the short game, which, you usually consider him to be a magic beans wonder guy who can just pull rabbits out of a hat. That even hasn't been reliable. The putter is hot and cold. The irons haven't been all that good. Like, to me, Jordan Spieth, you have to be concerned about where his game is at. And I'm going to be really curious to see what happens with him in Hilton Head this week, because 2 years ago when he snapped that wind drought at Harbour Town, he also missed the cut at Augusta National. Obviously different stages of his career, but if he misses the cut again at the RBC Heritage this week, it's like, oh boy, we could see another real big fall off out of Jordan Spieth. Real discouraging start to 2024 for him. So yeah, I thought it was.
I was gonna say you could tack on honorable mention Justin Thomas going from even par to finishing 7 over on the last 4 holes and missing the fucking cut.
Embarrassing, dude. Embarrassing. Yeah, definitely toughie for JT. And I want to say on Friday afternoon, for most of Friday, he was inside the top 20. And it was looking like, oh, okay, Justin Thomas showing some signs. Nope. Double bogeyed 17 and 18 to finish. So, yeah. First time in.
I think he double bogey. Bogey and then a bogey and double bogey in 3 of the last 4. He went from even par on 15 with the cut being 6 over to finishing at 7 over after finishing the final 4.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was bogey, double, double, double. Real bad stuff out of Justin Thomas. Has now missed the cut in 3 consecutive major championships, which he's never done in his entire career. So, yeah, certainly could throw Justin Thomas in that biggest loser bucket from this past week. Last one in the Masters superlatives, Ross. Biggest surprise. You got anything off the top of your head?
Biggest surprise, Nico Højgaard.
That's a good one.
I did not see that round, those rounds coming. And it's no disrespect to him. He's a tour rookie. He's working his way through. But it was such a shocker to see him up sitting there in the top 5, even holding the lead outright at one point on Saturday. Just huge surprise. And for guys like us, we got to see a good portion of his game that we normally don't get to see because he doesn't get the TV, the regular TV time. And he's an extremely talented player. Oh, yeah. I can see where he can be overshadowed like during the other tournaments. But I mean, the game is there, and especially as a tour rookie, I was very impressed that for the first time out, he got up there and he held his own for a while until, he probably walked up and saw his name at the top of the board and then went, oh shit.
Yeah. For me, I would say my biggest surprise would be how bad Jon Rahm played. Even though he hasn't won ever since joining LIV, I still thought he was going to finish inside the top 20 for sure. And I mentioned earlier on in the week when talking about like Rory versus Rahm, I was much more confident in Rahm's ability to kind of string it together and still put together a successful tournament. We didn't get that out of Jon Rahm. T45 and no real highlights ever, really like a very, very quiet week out of the defending champ. So that was kind of the biggest surprise to me. My other surprise was Collin Morikawa finding something at Augusta, because you just hear so often you don't find your game at Augusta, and Collin kind of did. He wasn't able to put it all together through that final round enough to get him on top of the leaderboard, but I did not expect. I thought like a best case scenario for Collin would be like a T20, a T25, and okay, we're starting to make some headway here. I never envisioned him being in the final pairing at Augusta going into Sunday. So yeah, that was probably the biggest surprise to me, along with even Tom Kim shooting that 65. Because I'll tell you what, Ross, I was so discouraged by what I saw out of Tom Kim at the Valero Texas Open that I wanted no part of him throughout the Masters. And to see him be able to put that together on a Sunday, really impressive stuff for Tom Kim. So that's kind of I think a good way to kind of wrap up Masters week. What a spectacular week it was. Like I said earlier, always comes and goes too fast, but altogether a really phenomenal tournament. I wish, the ending was a little bit more stressful, and I wish we would get I wish 18 would matter. 18 hasn't mattered in the Masters in a while, but every day until that final hour, you had such intriguing storylines. You had good reasons to watch other than Scottie Scheffler. So even though it maybe wasn't the most, it was kind of an anticlimactic ending with Scottie Scheffler, the world number 1, taking it down for the second time in 3 years. I really did think it was a phenomenal Masters week, and I enjoyed all of it from start to finish.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. Already missing it, that we got to wait a whole calendar year till it comes back again.
I know. Too far away. Cannot wait till Masters 2025 for the 89th edition of the tournament at Augusta National. But Ross, we got another tournament to get to here this week with the RBC Heritage at Harbour Town Golf Links in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. It's the 5th PGA Tour signature event here of the season. But before we get to that, a real intriguing headline going on around the golf community on Masters, the day after Masters Sunday, Masters Monday, I guess, whatever you want to call it. Rory McIlroy, in some rumors about an offer that Greg Norman and LIV Golf have given him for reportedly $850 million. Was that the number?
And equity in the league and a team.
Yeah. Obviously, you always got to take these things with a grain of salt. Who the hell knows in this world? We get reports about a lot of different players. My immediate reaction, though, Ross, is Rory should go. Rory should 100% go. And I know that there are going to be a lot of PGA Tour fans, if that happens, that are going to flip on Rory McIlroy, that are going to feel a whole heck of a lot differently about him, especially being the kind of leader, the player leader for the PGA Tour, and being outspoken time and time again about Live Golf and CEO Greg Norman and not believing in what they're doing and not believing in that tour. There will be a lot of people that would be very salty for Rory McIlroy leaving the PGA Tour. But I 100% think that that's the type of move that is actually going to get the ball fucking rolling in this thing, to get these guys all back together, playing against one another. Imagine the reaction the PGA Tour and Jay Monahan would have if Rory McIlroy left for Live Golf. It would be priceless.
At this point, I don't blame him.
Should go.
At this point, what he went through for the PGA Tour to get stabbed in the back, midnight deals, everything, and pretty much just thrown out to the wolves. At this point, Roy, if you want to add an extra $1 billion onto your empire, you go do it.
You should do it, and it's a big old middle finger right there to Jay Monahan. Oh, Jay, you want me to be the one that talks to the media, even though you're the commissioner? You want me to defend the PGA Tour on your behalf. Oh, and then you're not going to tell me that you're planning on doing a deal with these guys, and then a year later you still haven't made any fucking progress on it? I'm going to go to Live. I'm going to make $850 million, and I hope the establishment burns down. That's what I would do if I was Rory McIlroy, and I know that maybe is a little of a graphic form of it. I bet you that's what Rory McIlroy is contemplating in his head right now, if this is real. Do I just tell all of these guys to go fuck off, and maybe actually we get something positive going for the future of men's professional golf? I really believe if Rory left, that's a domino effect that leads to a solution here between these two tours, because the PGA Tour cannot exist without Rory McIlroy. Scottie Scheffler is the world number one. He's the best player in the world. He is not Rory McIlroy and what Rory means to the PGA Tour.
Yeah, and I mean, all Rory's buddies are over there, so it's not like it's a huge loss for him. But I mean, it's the biggest loss for the PGA, and at this point, I think you hit it on the head that it's the move that just has to be done to make people do anything now. And you know what? It doesn't surprise me. Greg Norman being on site, it doesn't surprise me if a conversation was had. And you know, it's not like we said, take it with a grain of salt, but the source saying this is like the number one financial newspaper in the UK are the ones breaking that 850 equity in the league and in a team. Like, take it with a grain of salt, but also like that is a credible source saying things. It's not just like, you know, X podcast is reporting, oh, I heard through the grapevine. There's a well credited source out there saying that they are here. There is enough for them to put out a story saying, or at least a report saying this is the thing.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, if I was Rory, I would absolutely take it. Go and team up with Tommy Ladd. Him and Tommy Ladd, the new Live Golf team. Fleetwood Mac. I could see it happening. I think Rory is more inclined.
Bring Shane Lowry with them.
Yeah, exactly. Just a bunch of jolly old guys having a good time over there playing for a lot of money. I feel like, at least in my mind, I feel like it's less crazy for Rory to go now than it was for Jon Rahm to go when he did. Like,
absolutely.
I will absolutely have been more surprised by Jon Rahm leaving at that point than I will by Rory McIlroy leaving now. He should.
Yeah, absolutely. I at this point, Rory, go. You've done enough. You go.
Yeah. So we'll see if there's any developments on that front later on this week. If Rory McIlroy, if we hear any more news about this offer or hear him accepting such a thing, we'll see if he's teeing it up at Harbour Town Golf Links this week for the 2024 RBC Heritage. We'll also see if that Scottie Scheffler guy is going to be teeing it up here. As of right now, looks like he's not going to withdraw. I honestly thought he would have, just considering the whirlwind that comes with winning the Masters, and obviously Meredith is still pregnant, so that could change at any given moment. But it seems like Scottie Scheffler's intent is to be playing this week at Hilton Head Island. And as I broke down a little bit earlier. 5th signature event of the season here for the PGA Tour, meaning that basically all the big names that were at Augusta National last week are going to be teeing it up once again this week, aside from Hideki Matsuyama and Victor Hovland, who both have foregone their eligibility for this tournament. Other than that, you got all the big names, Ross. Scottie Scheffler, Xander, Ludvig, Rory, Cantlay, Morikawa, Fleetwood, Homa, Matt Fitzpatrick's the defending champion, Jordan Spieth, the 2022 champion, Wyndham Clark, Cameron Young, Will Zalatoris. It's a really good tournament, and it is a course that I personally really enjoy. And I think it's a good reminder that you don't need distance. You don't need to be the longest golf course, even in today's day and age with modern technology, to give a very good golf tournament. That's what Pete Dye always does. His courses are never the longest. Here, Harbour Town Golf Links is just over 7,200 yards, one of the shorter tracks on the schedule, but there are a lot of trinkets and little nuances to it that makes it just so you can't overpower it. In fact, driving distance really doesn't lead you to all that much here because it's a strategic and positional golf course, and Pete Dye does that on purpose. There's water hazards on all 18 of the holes. There's 54 strategically placed sand bunkers. The rough is only 2.5 inches, but why that comes into play more so than maybe just the distance of or the length of the rough is because the greens here at Harbour Town are the second smallest on the PGA Tour, just 3,700 square yards on average. So hitting the greens in regulation here, hitting 12 of 14 greens just really isn't all that likely because they're so difficult. And if you find yourself in the fairway rough, that's only going to add in the difficulty of finding these greens. But there's a lot of dog leg shaped holes that force players to have to take less than driver off of the tee box here. So you kind of get a little bit of everything, and you need to be a good scrambler, especially if the wind picks up, because that's when pars become a more and more serviceable score. Ultimately, kind of the winning score and the scoring conditions are determined by that wind. When it's down, we've seen winning scores eclipse 20 under, and when it's up, we've seen winning scores at around 11 to 12. So based on the weather forecast and wind finder early on this week, looks like it's going to be, 15 to 20 mile an hour gusts on the weekend. Nothing too severe, but I'd anticipate a winning score probably around 16 to 17 under. But like I said, this is a course that I really think is fascinating. Not a lot of distance. Most of the par fours are in between 400 to 450 yards. The par fives aren't all that long, but you still are going to struggle to go and rack up birdies. It's not a birdie fest here. So I think it's a good course to get all of the PGA Tour's finest on it. I don't know if I necessarily love the placement in the schedule coming the week after the Masters, but we got the best of the best for the most part teeing it up here this week. Ross, go ahead and tell me which guys here on this Monday afternoon are maybe catching your eye in terms of the betting board.
I've got 4. 2 of them will not be a surprise because we are running back after last week. Kick it off, top of the board. Gonna jump on it early before he gets hammered down any further. Ludvig. I think last week is just going to be such an adrenaline kick for him coming off of his first major. That performance, I think he's going to ride it high into his signature event. I think that actually plays really well for him, that we're going from a major to we're going right back to a big event right now. Ludvig, you just kicked some ass. I think I'm going to probably jump on it early before he gets hammered down more. Right now I'm showing him at 12, which is kind of my cutoff to really bet on people. So Ludvig is in there. Another gonna ride the confidence that just seems different and still hasn't won this year, but I like Max going here after last week. Seems like he's in a good place, and I think this could be one of those that, again, were a big tournament following a great performance at a major. Moving a little further down the board, I'm throwing him in there because he's a dog. And I know his performance at Augusta is not sitting well with him. I like Wyndham at the 28 right now. I think there's going to be a chip on his shoulder after showing up to the first major, missing the cut. He typically gets up for the big events. That was the first time in a long time we haven't seen Wyndham Clark play like Wyndham Clark, and I think he's not going to let that happen. Two big tournaments in a row, and for his number, considering what the field looks like, I feel like that number again is almost disrespectful to him, considering what he does in these big signature events. So I'm not going to let a number like that sneak past me, knowing how well he can play. And my final, going further down the board, really underrated performance. And like you said, scrambling is going to come into effect at this course this week. Someone that did an outstanding job last week and got almost nothing talked about. Cam Davis is 50-1 right now.
Yeah. Starting with Ludvig, first off, I want to say quietly, these types of setups, strategic shorter courses, might be more in his arsenal. Obviously, we saw him win at Sea Island Resort, which is not too far away in Georgia. That's another coastal style setup similar to this. Obviously, he was runner-up at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am earlier on this year, which is another Pete Dye design. So certainly reasons to like Ludvig, even though people might believe his driver could be better suited for the longer and more difficult courses. Believe it or not, in terms of his finishes, these seem to be his preferred setup. I also did like the Wyndham Clark play for similar reasons. Been really good at Pete Dye design so far in his career. Pebble Beach this year, we saw what he did at TPC Sawgrass as well. And as always, disrespected in the outright market with lower odds than Jordan Spieth and Siwoo Kim, which legitimately makes zero sense. And then Cam Davis. I thought Cam Davis was interesting too. He's got a pair of top 10 finishes here over the last couple of years, starting to get into some good form. I don't know if this is still out there, but at our sponsor, Bet Rivers, in the enhanced market, in the enhanced offering market, there was an 80-1 out there on Cam Davis. I didn't pull trigger on it. But honestly, by the time I get off this recording, if it's still there, I might. The two bets that I've made for sure this week, Ross, I got two locked in already. Shane Lowry, 70-1. Already jammed down to like 45 on certain spots. I was looking at a 75-1 too, and I watched it drop to 70 in real time, and I'm like, I can't wait on this. This number is going to fall 100%. A little disappointing last week at the Masters, finished T43. It all is because of the putter. He lost almost 7 strokes putting last week, still gained over 6.5 strokes ball striking. He's gained over 6 strokes ball striking in each of his last 4 PGA Tour starts, has 3 top 10s in his last 5 trips to Harbour Town Golf Links, including a T3 a couple of years ago. The short game on this course in particular has been really good. He's gained with the putter in 4 of his 6 trips. Ball striking has always been good here, and he's on a good run ball striking as well. So I hopped in on Shane Lowry. I also hopped in on the Taylor Moore 80-1. Someone who's been playing quietly some good golf here as of late. The around the green has really been splendid. Had another good finish. Didn't see a single shot of his probably the entire tournament at the Masters, but had another good finish there. And there has been some sneaky correlation between Hilton Head and Copperhead's Innisbrook Resort. And obviously, that's where Taylor Moore picked up his first career PGA Tour victory. I think he's trending in the right direction as well. So those were the 2 long shots that I jumped on here early. The top of the board is a little bit more tricky for me. Xander Schauffele has my eye. I'm not going to bet him at 10-1, but like he's probably my favorite of the players under 20-1. Patrick Cantlay is also a little interesting, just given his course history around here. I believe he has 4 top 5 finishes in 6 trips. A little bit further down, I would say Wyndham is probably the one that I'm eyeing along with Matthew Fitzpatrick. If I see a 30 on Matt Fitzpatrick, I might go and nab that real quick because he's been playing better ever since he got rid of the weight in his driver or whatever that may be. But there's really not all that much intrigue to me at the top. I'm closely keeping an eye on that Sam Burns number. There's a 55-1 out there right now. If that gets to 60, I'm probably going to jump on that, just given how good of a putter he is, usually on Bermuda, the crossover, like I said, to the Valspar Championship at Copperhead. Has some good finishes here in the past as well, and I know no one's going to want to.
Alert, though.
I know, but with the 60-1, like that's kind of like built into it with me, is like Sam Burns is a much better player of a 60-1 caliber. Like, he shouldn't have the same odds as Sepp Straka and JT Poston, even though he hasn't been in the best form going in. So those are kind of the guys that I'm looking at here early on in the week. As I said, the only ones officially locked into my card are Shane Lowry at 70 and Taylor Moore at 80. But yeah, this is a course that I really like. Should be another good tournament here with all of the biggest names. And hopefully Scottie Scheffler doesn't take our money this week. It would be just excellent if, you just cruise to like a T15, maybe no scares. It would be fun.
I'm just saying, I already have the worst fear that he might not win this week, but then Meredith is going to give them their baby, and then he's going to go off with dad strength for the next 3 months.
And like Webb Simpson, he's going to, oh no, just kidding. That's, do you name it Wyndham? Now I'm getting confused. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Did he name it Wyndham, right?
I think so.
Yeah, for some reason I was going to say Harbour Town, but there's no way he named his daughter Harbour Town. That's not in the cards. I'm just going to make sure I'm correct here real quick. Because now it's going to drive me crazy. I know it's not, but I just want to make sure it's the Wyndham. It is the Wyndham. Okay. But Webb Simpson has one here, interestingly enough. But yeah. Ross, you got any final thoughts? I mean, we've been on here for an hour and a half. I think we basically discussed it all, my friend. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Not at this moment, man. We're going right back into another big event. Scottie and Sam on baby watch, so we'll see how that plays into the odds this week. I mean, realistically, for people like us, it's better probably this week to get our odds in now, because if Scottie withdraws, everyone's gonna drop.
Everyone's going to go crashing. Honestly, though, I wasn't like really thrilled with these odds. I almost thought like they opened them as if they like expected Scottie to withdraw. That's why we've seen a lot of the guys at the top kind of creep a little bit further down, I believe, here. But yeah, as always, everyone, thank you for tuning in. I think that's going to take care of today's episode of Golf on Tap. Make sure to go and smash that like button and go and follow the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. That way you can keep up with all of the latest shows if you're not able to jump in with us during the live stream. We greatly appreciate everyone tuning in as we're trying to grow this thing. Stay tuned later on in the week as Joey Ricotta and myself will be having a final bet show there. I'll have a better idea of my finalized card. So make sure to stay tuned for that point later on this week. To everyone out there, again, thank you very much for all the support. It means a lot. Make sure to go and check out ontapsportsnet.com for all the latest coming out of Chicago sports, and also for beer reviews, food reviews, movie reviews, all that good stuff. And also use the promo code ONTAP at BetRivers if you're a new member. Get up to a $250 match on your first deposit. Once again, everyone, crack 'em, lock 'em. We'll see you next week.